Now let's talk a little bit about debugging. What you can do, and we already did that also in our more options workflow, is that we use boolean values, such as from nodes like here check body for assembly or the check mesh, and we output them with a basic container and give a unique name to the basic container that indicates us, okay, everything is fine or not. So our consumers can also tell, did the workflow run correctly? Synera Run is a very new and fast developing product. My colleague and Synera Run product manager Sophie will now show us more about debugging.
With Keen Creators, we focused on solving one specific challenge users have been facing with Synera Run so far. And a little recap, in Synera Run, we see two different types of users. We have the creators that build the workflows and publish them, and we have consumers that just run the workflows, but actually have no other contact points with Synera, the editor. And also, since they don't have a contract, they also don't have knowledge about how to fix problems if they face any. And so far, they had to just contact their creator, and then the creator had to go into debugging and investigation mode and figure it out, which was also a tedious task, as on the server environment, there's a lot of different factors you have to take in account. And for these reasons, our team has been working very hard on reducing the time to successfully running workflows in Synera Run with Keen Creators. We provide new solutions that first off prevent errors, and if they still occur in rare cases, makes it a lot easier to detect and solve these errors. So when a creator publishes a workflow, Synera now checks all known sources for unintended workflow behavior. And then depending on the significance of what's found, you either get an error message, a warning, or an info message. And just to mention a few checks we perform before publishing, we check, is the solution of the workflow finished already? Can all necessary files be copied to the server? Are all needed add-ins installed on the server? Is there a mismatch between installed Synera versions, or is the workflow password protected? There's a lot of other checks, but the list is long. And with all of these checks, you can then either resolve them. For some, you can also publish anyway, and you can be very sure that your workflow is running as intended after publishing for your consumers. On top of these checks, we also empower the creator to route errors, warnings, or info messages to the Run front end based on logics they can define themselves in the workflow. Creators can use the validate node to define the message type and the text that should be displayed in the front end. And then they can define a logic, and based on that logic, if it's fulfilled or not, the message will be shown in the front end. And you can also decide if the data stream should be broken. So then the computation would also stop for some cases. In our early adopter group, actually, we have seen this feature mainly being used to validate input data so that there's a check after the inputs are uploaded or entered, and then the computation doesn't even run or is stopped. So it saves a lot of time for the consumers if they input some invalid data. And then also Keen Creators allows creator to define which inputs are required and which are optional. And then only if all required inputs are entered, you can run the workflow. And now I would like to have a look with you. Oops, sorry. Let's see if this video is playing. Daniel, can you start the video? Thank you. I want to have a look with you at an example of how we can set up these custom messages for our consumers. So here you see the creator has a workflow that is building a geometry and then analyzing it. And here now it's building a logic with a validate node so that only if a valid geometry is outputted, the data should keep flowing. And if no valid geometry is outputted, we get a data breakpoint, and then the message that is typed right now will be displayed in the front end. And here you see it's an error. You can define the message type. You can say break the data flow here if the error appears. Then also usually creators know their workflows really well. So here the creator is setting up a logic where they know this input combination can cause problems, builds up this logic. And then again, if this condition is fulfilled, it will break the data stream. Here it's actually a different message. So sometimes it can be just like, well, this is wrong. It doesn't work at all. But here the creator can give some guidance and tips to the consumer of how to adjust the inputs for the workflow to work. And then you see here the error in action. You see the error message, and this will just be routed through the front end. And of course, you can not only define error messages, you can also define warnings or info messages. So in this case, there's a displacement being calculated. And if the displacement is larger than a certain value, the creator knows this well, it would be great to have a bit of a stiffer geometry, but it shouldn't break the workflow from calculating. So they just type a message to let the consumer know and make them aware. And here you see now our checklist in action. While publishing, you get some hints. Here you can enter a password to protect your workflow. We also are told that we have a different Synera version, but decide, we can publish anyway. That's not a problem. In this situation, just be a bit cautious of it. And then our consumer is using the workflow, actually faces the errors and gets the messages displayed in the front end. They can read them and they help them. They help the consumer to know what to do. So actually, there's a lot of guidance for our workflow consumer now. All right. So after looking at preventing unexpected behaviors in Synera Run, let's have a look how Clean Creators is handling it if errors still happen for one reason or the other. There are multiple scenarios where system errors could occur, for example, third-party tools or add-ins not being installed on the server or licenses missing. And for these cases, we display these error messages where we directly include a message that can be copied and sent to the workflow creator or the server admin, depending on who needs to take care here. But in any case, the workflow consumer is never left clueless, and they get direct instructions on how to proceed to get the workflow running again. Also, node errors can appear when running a workflow. Even if the creator prepares the workflow very carefully, it still might throw an error. There might be some input combinations you haven't tested. These things can happen. And independently of what node error is thrown inside of Synera, the workflow consumer will always get the same unexpected error message. So they don't have to worry about understanding what is happening in the workflow at all. And then they can generate a debug file using this error message, and they can directly send it to the creator. Everything is displayed in the message. And then the creator can use this debug file to see the inputs of the consumer and fix the problem from there. And I actually would like to go back to our example and see what that looks like in action. So here you see the consumer is playing around in this workflow again, and a node error appears. And now by generating a debug file, they can copy the link. They don't even need to download the debug file themselves, so it's fast and convenient. They can just write the creator an email and ask them for support. And on the creator side, of course, you get this email first. By clicking the link, you directly download the debug file that was created. You can open it directly in Synera. And of course, if you password protected your workflow, you need to enter that. And once you open it, you see the workflow at the state when the error appeared. So here we can directly understand which nodes are throwing an error and why that is. And then also either adjust the workflow or maybe tell the consumer what to do. In this case, there's actually a bit of a mistake in the workflow. The length of 0 doesn't work in this case. So the creator changes that, republishes the workflow, and then just informs the consumer that everything is working now. The link stays the same, so the consumer can just refresh the page and can continue to work after a short amount of time. All right. So these error handling and debugging features in Keen Creators ensure that the time from publishing to successfully running a workflow is now drastically reduced. No user is left confused or wondering what to do, and the creators get the power to give the consumers a very smooth and guided experience for them to successfully use their workflows. In addition to this very big focus area for Synera Run, we also added some convenience and quality of life features that were highly requested by our users. One of them is that the contact details of the creator are always displayed under help. So you cannot just contact your creator if there's an error thrown, but actually at any time, if needed, you know who created this workflow and how to contact them. Also, we are now allowing the creator to decide whether the default solution mode should be auto run or manual, and also if there should be an initial computation of the workflow or not, as this highly depends on the workflow, what makes most sense. And then also, we saw some workflows at our users where we had like up to 100 items in the select node. And because of that, we quickly added the search functionality here to ease your life a little bit. And then also you can now publish workflows that include library workflows without any problems. It works now. And with that, let's have a quick look at this overview page. So the most important ones is setting required and optional inputs, the system error messages, the publishing checklist, debugging files, and of course the custom messages so you can guide your consumers.
Now you have learned everything about Synera Run, even how to increase the user-friendliness and documentation. Your colleagues will be thankful, and you probably as well, in case you want to make changes in the future. Now just have fun applying this knowledge to your own workflows. Share them and let your colleagues benefit from your expertise.